Hello everyone and welcome to this session where we would be doing a comparative analysis of the career trajectories that you could possibly have if you choose one of the two routes, whether you go via IPMAT exam or you go via CAT exam to pursue your MBA. So let's jump right in. So let's do a quick head-to-head comparison with regards to how are the two exams different. So understand that IPMAT's target audience is after 12th. So you can straight away get into undergraduation after your 12th standard in an IIM via this particular exam IPMAT, whereas CAT typically requires you to have a graduation degree. Obviously CA, CS, etc. are also eligible, but then typically you would find graduates with 3 to 4 years of undergraduate degree already having been obtained, and then they are appearing for CAT. Some of the candidates also have work experience, so that is again a differentiating factor as far as CAT is concerned. If you look at the age, therefore, you would find straight out of school students here at IPMAT, whereas the average age would be anywhere around 21 to 26 plus years for aspirants after appearing in CAT. Now, test takers around 30,000 plus candidates in IPMAT and around 2,50,000 plus candidates in CAT. Now, this is probably the biggest difference. If you look at the sheer volume of students that appear in CAT, this is still a very competitive exam because there is a large candidate test takers who would be competing for those limited seats. Whereas if you look for the IPMAT program, I can understand that there are less IIMs which offer, but then 30,000 is still a very less number. If you compare it across IIT, JEE or NEET, then this number gives you a huge amount of confidence that if you prepare well, you can definitely get into a top college. With regards to program structure, it's a 5-year integrated program, whereas after CAT, you typically get a 2-year postgraduate degree because your graduation is already done. Here, you're doing graduation as well as post-graduation. Exam difficulty, this particular exam of IPMAT focuses on speed, higher math and foundational verbal ability. If you compare and contrast, I would say the level of quantitative aptitude is more or less similar in IPMAT and CAT, but there is a big difference in the level of difficulty for verbal ability. The comprehension tested is at a very advanced level, which involves a lot of critical reasoning, inference-based, conclusion-based, assumption-based questions. And a very important distinction is about complex data interpretation and logical reasoning. If you compare the DI set that typically come in IPMAT Indore versus the DLR that comes in CAT, there is a difference of night and day. You would realize that this exam is decidedly more difficult as far as DILR and VARC are concerned. Quantitative aptitude, I would say more or less on similar lines. In fact, slightly higher QA level of difficulty because of higher math being a priority here in IPMAT, which is not the case necessarily in CAT. If you look at the prior work experience, 0 work ex, fresh out of school, whereas you'll have typical 0 to 4 years of work ex. In fact, some candidates also have 5, 6 or even more than 6 years of experience, but those are rare after CAT. Primary participating colleges, so you have IIM Indore, Shillong, Rohtak, Ranchi, Bodh Gaya, Jammu, Amritsar and Sirmaur at this point, which are offering a particular IPM course, whereas all 22 IIMs, including the newer IIM of IIM Guwahati, would be giving you admissions based on the exam of CAT. So this is the broad comparison. Now let's understand the career trajectory timeline with regards to the different exams that we look at. So in phase 1, this is the entry for the IPM program starts immediately after 12th. So you appear for IPMAT exam, let's say IPMAT Indore or IPMAT Rohtak, and then you get into that corresponding IIM. Whereas for entry after CAT, you do get entry after your graduation is done. You appear for CAT, then after that you get entry straight away into your first year of MBA. The typical age therefore is somewhere around 17 to 19 years for candidates and 21 to 28 years for people appearing for CAT and then starting their first year. The second phase is important, which is the foundation phase. So IPM, this is a 3-year BA BBA course, and for CAT you would have done your graduation from some college or university, and then anywhere between 0 to 4 years of work ex you would be here. But a very important, and I would say that this is probably the highlight of this session, that after IPMAT, understand that you have an option to exit. Now let me share why this is important. Imagine you are pursuing your school level 12th class boards are going to happen, or you're in 10th standard or 11th standard, and you would want to take up graduation from a premier institute in India. Now the options typically earlier were limited. You had to appear for JEE or NEET or something like this. But now you can get your graduation in from a reputed institution like IIM Indore just after appearing in IPMAT and completing your 3-year course. You can get an exit after 3 years. If you wish to continue for 5 years, you'll get an MBA degree after 5 years. But if you wish to exit after 3 years, that is an option. And why is this relevant? A lot of parents that I have had discussions with wanted to send their kids abroad for studies, but they are not really sure whether it is the right step to do it just after 12th. So they would want to wait for their graduation to happen in India and then would want to send their kids abroad. So then this is a fantastic option if you want a great brand to be a part of your CV in your undergraduation, which is your IIM Indore. So this is probably one of the big takeaways that you can exit. And in fact, not just for higher studies abroad, think of candidates who are studying at IIM Rohtak and they, or even at IIM Indore, and after 3 years they would want to switch to, let's say, IIM Ahmedabad. So they can appear in CAT and then again take up MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, and so on and so forth. So that is probably the biggest highlight of this IPM program, that you have an option to exit. Phase 3 is obviously the MBA. Now what happens, let's say at IIM Indore, you would have the entire 3-year batch moving to year 4 as part of their IPM program, whereas the aspirants who appeared in CAT would get direct entry into MBA first year. So in phase 3, IPM people get direct transition to PGP, whereas CAT you would require to be cleared, get admission into first years, and both of them are merged together for all practical purposes. Their placements happen together, so there is hardly any difference between somebody who's studying for 3 years and then moving directly into 4th year, which is year 1 of MBA, vis-a-vis somebody who has appeared for CAT and getting entry into MBA first year. So after 3 years, the MBA part is broadly the same for everybody. Phase 4 is the corporate, both pass out with the same degree, same credentials, same branding, no difference at all, that both of these category students from IPM or via CAT will get their MBA or PGP being enabled in their course. So if we move ahead, curriculum and skill development. Now understand that given that this is one standard course lasting for 5 years, the first 3 years cover liberal arts, mathematics, statistics, social science, and some fundamental courses as far as management is concerned. Whereas CAT for 2 years, after you appear for CAT and then take up MBA, it would be a very focused, it would be highly fast-paced, immersive course on MBA specializations and subjects therein, which would deal with finance, strategy, marketing, operations, product management, HR, and whatnot. So think of it this way: suppose you are an engineer or you want to pursue engineering in mechanical or electronics or computer science and then would want to take up a management course, then CAT is the way to go. But if you feel that in one go you would want to have a comprehensive and holistic understanding with regards to management, then IPM is the way to go. Seamless progression, so it's like a normal direct transition, whereas here typically you have pursued your graduation. You could be pursuing journalism, you could be pursuing mass media, you could be pursuing a BSc in agriculture for that matter, and then also you have this option of appearing in CAT and then taking up an MBA degree. So that's the broad difference with regards to curriculum and skill. If we move ahead, placement, because a lot of times what are the outcomes? Does it impact? So understand that IPM students merge completely with the CAT PGP batch in year 4 and 5, and therefore there is an identical placement process, no differentiation as such officially. And compensation parity, typically you would find that when the placement report comes, for example, we have the latest placement data available for IIM Indore's batch of 23-25. The placements happen all together and the average CTC is 29.57 lakhs per annum for the entire group of people, each of whom could be a part of the IPM progression from 3 years or could be new entry after the CAT exam. So moving ahead, this is the snapshot from actual placement report of IIM Indore, official data obtained from the website of IIM Indore, that these are the different career trajectories that you could go into even after IPM or after CAT, which are in the domain of consulting, finance. What is GenMan here? So it is general management. Now think of companies like Tata Administrative Services, think of companies like Mahindra and Mahindra. They have a range of industries under them as a conglomerate, and therefore they would give you roles that deal with almost every aspect of finance, marketing, operations, etc., which is typically titled as general management. Operations and HR, I hope is clear. Then you have around 10.4% of the batch getting placed in IT or analytics, and then finally around 13.2% of the batch getting placed in sales and marketing. So think of it this way, that any and every domain that you typically think of after pursuing an MBA. So pursuing management education, you would probably want to go into finance or sales or marketing or consulting or general management or product management or IT or HR or operations for that matter. Everything is broadly covered if you look at IIM Indore's latest placement report, which is available, along with highest CTCs which are available across those domains. Now understand, there is no official separate placement data available because the institute doesn't share this. They treat all of them as equal and they share a combined placement report for all the people at once, whether they have joined via IPM or via CAT. One important message here, that please do not compare people with work experience who have had 2-3 years of work experience with the candidates who would have got direct entry after IPM, because they wouldn't have any work experience. See, after 12th, you're straight away jumping into a business school. So obviously you don't have work experience. Does it matter a lot? Understand, it does not matter. But yes, are there some companies that would typically want some candidates with a prior work experience? Yes, that does happen. So then there is a slight preference towards candidates which have a typical work experience. But the other way around, does it happen as well? Are there some companies which would typically want freshers because they have a clean slate and no prior work experience? Yes. So it evens out both ways. And just like with any other particular management program, it really does not matter. What it boils down to is your individual credentials, your projects that you have done, the competitions that you have participated in, your CGPA, overall performance of yours during the entire duration of your MBA. That is what ultimately matters here. If we move ahead, which option is finally better? I mean, at the end of it all, please decide on whether we should go for IPM or whether we should go for CAT. My personal suggestion, if you have even the slightest of inclination towards management, then please do prepare for IPMAT. Why? Because IPMAT is an option. Suppose it doesn't go your way, you are not able to clear the exam. The preparation that you have done for IPM would be super relevant, super useful, even if you want to appear for CAT later on. So ideal for students who have clarity, would want to directly jump into management after 12th. The CAT candidate, somebody who has already had a particular core domain in terms of graduation and either wants to extend it via management degree or would want to diversify and get into management because their earlier graduation was not into management. So that is the part with regards to the two different career tracks. Ideally, the strategic combo is the biggest takeaway from this, that you could try and attempt IPMAT in class 12th, and if unselected, you could pursue an undergraduate degree from your college of your choice, build a stellar profile and target CAT with enhanced maturity and better clarity at how do you want to go about your preparation. So I would say preparing for IPMAT is a fantastic choice in 12th standard. It's a win-win situation. If you are able to clear it, great. Even if you are not able to clear it, the preparation won't go wasted. You have another chance at getting into a top IIM, including IIM Indore and better colleges like IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Lucknow, etc. via appearing in CAT. So that's it from my side. I'll take a leave. Thank you so much for being patient all this while.